Hello everyone, this is Cherie, and this is a NaNoWriMo 2020 Week 2. So as a recap, the first week went really well. I'm working on a supernatural horror screenplay, 100-page script, and I wrote up to page 25 Saturday. On Sunday, I wrote another 3.5 pages. Monday, which was yesterday, only did 2 pages. Hopefully this is not the second week slump that you hear about during these projects, but today I need to make that up. So today I need to do at least 4 pages, and I didn't write any this morning because I have an assignment due for one of my film classes, and luckily the assignment is write out 2 concepts of scenes that you would like to shoot for a future project. So I'm going to do 2 of the scenes from my screenplay that I'm writing right now and submit those. So I was working on one of them this morning, a scene I haven't written yet, and got all the beats mapped out, and it's pretty much all in here, so all I have to do is type it into the final draft. Now, as far as the story goes, Page 23 was actually the crash, and page 25 was the 2 groups, the Silicon Valley group and the Santa Cruz group, just getting to safety, getting to know each other, making their way into the Cat's Tavern. So they step across the threshold into Act 2, even though I really think that the threshold thing was when they go into the fog and then the crash happens, but now they're crossing the literal threshold and go into the Cat's Roadhouse, which is this old-timey tavern, and no one's there, and it's all dark, and they can't find the light switches, so they have to use their flashlights on their phones to illuminate the place, and their phones don't work as far as calling out. And then they find a fireplace, and on top of it, in what they think is a little box of matches, is actually a music box, and it plays the song In the Gloaming. And all of a sudden, all their flashlights on their phones go out, and they hear a big bang. Someone's entering through the back, and another bang at the front door, and 2 patrons enter. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, the ghost-like Chinese man, he appeared, and he is actually the reason that one of the cars crashed, because they were trying to avoid hitting him. And then right outside the Cat's Tavern by the 2 giant cat statues, Awo is watching these 2 groups come together, help each other, and he doesn't seem too happy about it, especially where Bruce and Ming are concerned, because they seem to be getting along just fine, and he has it in for one of them, if not both of them. Day 11. I did write 3 pages last night. I'm going to need to write 4 pages for the next 4 days in order to get to 50 on Saturday. But what I wanted to show you was my beat-by-beat document. I opened it up yesterday. I have it printed out, but I hadn't opened up the actual document. And there are all these notes in the side. So and it's funny because so the MacGuffin that Bruce was supposed to pick up for his mom is unavailable due to the store being closed. And then I wrote my note, this is weak. Make it relevant to the story and Bruce being unable to obtain it, some kind of foreshadowing. And so these were things that I had said in my first video last week. And then this, Ming's mom says she must honor her elders, and Ming is expected to be there that evening. And then I put, this is stretched over 3 beats, but will be really boring if it's a 3-minute conversation. Revise. So everything that I was talking about last week, I had already thought about and wrote notes about here, and I just never went back in to fix them. And then here, beat 50, and now we're at beat 51, and there's nothing else. And I I'm going to be in a lot of trouble starting Sunday if I don't fix this and put more stuff in. And things are getting changed around a little as well. So I really need to work on the bulk of the story that takes place in the Cat's restaurant. So those are the things I need to work on. I'm going to have more time tomorrow, which is the 12th. So today I'll just have to figure out some easy 3 pages and then really get into it tomorrow. Day 12. I wrote 3.5 pages last night, did a couple this morning. I need to do a couple tonight when I get home from work, to maintain only having to do 4 pages on Friday and Saturday to meet my goal. So because I've been changing things around already is in terms of the beats, the page counts, I need to go back. I need to go back and redo the entire beat sheet. I mean, I'm already going to be on page 50 on Saturday, and I don't have the beats mapped out from there anyway. So it is imperative that I go through and I clean that up and I get my beats down, and I know how I am going to proceed starting Sunday and moving forward to for the next 2 weeks. Because otherwise I'm going to be really mad at myself. It's so much easier when everything has been kind of pre-plotted out. So much easier. Like the scene I wrote last night was one of the scenes that I had turned in to my teacher. It's the chopsticks scene where Ming plays a version of chopsticks on the piano that impresses everyone in the tavern. And if I hadn't mapped that out so well, it would have taken me forever to write. And it's just, I'm very much a plotter. There's the plotter and the pantser, and then there's the plantser who kind of does a little of both. And unfortunately, I've set myself up to be a plantser, but I'd much rather be a plotter. So tonight, write 2 pages, and then I'm going to start going back over the beat sheet. We'll see how that goes. I'm absolutely drained right now. I just wrote this scene where the foreman and his crew force this 6-year-old Chinese boy to sing Little Buttercup for them. And it was really hard psychologically. Yeah. Friday the 13th. A perfect day to write a ghost story. This morning I wrote another few pages. I have 4.5 left in order to hit my 50-page goal by the end of the day tomorrow. And I got notes back from my teacher on the 2 concepts that I had submitted. And I submitted 2 from the screenplay. The first was the opening scene, and the second was the chopstick scene. So the opening scene, he wasn't that interested in. It is a setup. It's where there's this ghost in the machine, which is tech talk for a computer bug kind of thing. I think iRobot explains it more succinctly than that, but anyway, he wasn't that interested. He's like, oh, well, that happens all the time. I'm thinking, yeah, it's really stressful when they're, trying to show something for a presentation, and I was trying to show the tension and introduce the characters and show how Ming is a master problem solver. And he was kind of like, well, maybe if, you showed more character development with it, so the conflict between characters comes out or something, he might be more interested. So that's, it's interesting. I'm not sure if it's just because of the way I wrote it as a half a page concept idea. It might read better in the script and the way that flows. So what I think I'm going to do is December 1st, once I've done the whole vomit draft, that's what we call the original draft of our screenplay. We don't call it a zero draft like novelists do. So when I finish the vomit draft, I will contact some of my screenwriting friends and just send them this opening scene and see what they think. So Dan, Adrian, Eric, and be prepared to hear from me on December 1st. Now, luckily, he did like the chopsticks scene. It was more of a standalone scene that could be done, just as a little one-off piece, which is what our assignment was. So I've been asked to develop that into a one-page treatment, even though I've already written it. So I'm just going to take, all the stuff I've written and just remove the dialogue and spruce it up a little, and that will be the treatment. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that scene with you. So I'm going to read the chopsticks scene from my screenplay out loud to you right now. James, 40s, stomps inside the tavern. He stops dead in his tracks when he sees the new guests. James, what's all this mean? Sarah, have a seat, James. James, the carnival in town? CES, they're victims of an accident. They're just resting up. James, hey, Oriental girl. Ming looks over. James, why don't you head on back to Chinatown? A smug grin envelops his face. Ming gives him a questioning look, then turns back to her friends. James, that wasn't a question, that was an order. Sarah, James! Musadora comes up behind James and hands him a glass of whiskey off a full tray. Musadora, drink this and sit down. James smells the whiskey and smiles. James, well, hello, where did this come from? Musadora ignores him as she passes out plates of food to the newcomers. CES, have a seat, James. James sits with the two poets and lavishly sips his drink. He slyly looks back over to Ming. Ming takes a pair of chopsticks out of her purse and uses them to eat her food. James stops with his glass halfway to his mouth. He turns to Sarah and CES, who just shrug. Perturbed, James rises, taking his whiskey with him. He slowly walks around the room, eyes always on Ming. Ming, obviously aware, keeps her eyes focused on her food. James brushes against Ming's arm, then continues to the piano where he takes a seat. Ming ignores him, but everyone else in her group stops eating and watches James. Sarah and CES exchange looks. Musadora shakes her head at James. James raises his glass in a toast and drinks, subdued for a moment. Musadora turns and leaves into the kitchen. James places his glass on top of the piano and cranes his neck to make sure she's gone. The entire room is silent, until James places 2 fingers on the F and G keys, pressing them 6 times in a row. Chopsticks. He continues playing. Sarah and CES look disgusted. The Silicon Valley and Santa Cruz groups look down, embarrassed for Ming, not knowing how to respond. James completes the song with a laugh. Chopsticks! Get it? He laughs again, then repeats the A section. No one else laughs. This makes James laugh even louder. Finally, Ming rises. She faces James, chopsticks in hand. James gives her a dirty scowl. Ming, expressionless, slowly and calmly approaches James. The chopsticks are held by her side at the ready. They could take an eye out. James becomes disconcerted at Ming's demeanor. He focuses on the chopsticks. Ming's fingers brush the chopsticks back and forth, as if sharpening them to a point. Ming is closer now. James slides off the piano bench in the opposite direction and moves to the kitchen entrance, the closest escape. Ming stares at him, then takes a seat at the piano. She crosses her chopsticks on top of the whiskey glass, then takes a deep breath. Ming begins the same 6-note intro of chopsticks, then completely transforms the piece into a concert-worthy version. It's as if Mozart possessed Ming, and played a lavish variation to James's sculliary version. Mouths drop around the restaurant. Musadora comes back to the room and stands beside James, who looks utterly bewildered. A big smile crosses Musadora's face. She elbows James in the ribs. He's none too pleased at her excitement. Continuing the variations, Ming grabs her chopsticks and begins using them as a percussive counterpoint to the melody. Gasps and whistles emit from the crowd. Sarah and CES stand up and begin dancing to the music. Koa and Yesenia clap along to the beat. Taj, Abeo, and Hannah have tears of pride in their eyes. Finally, one last crescendo, and Ming ends the piece. The tavern erupts in applause and cheers. A big smile emerges on Ming's face. Then it goes red as she becomes shy. James looks like he's about to hit something as he moves back to the poet's table. Before he can sit, Sarah comes up behind him and kicks him in the seat of the pants with her knee. Sarah, you're an ass. Day 14. And I'm coming at you from my desktop computer, which I have never used in the whole year that I've had this channel. So I did make it to page 50. I wrote the ending, the last 4 scenes in the movie. I was reading this book, and this article fell out, this really old newspaper article about Highway 17. And I got this idea for this character, another local legend who can be incorporated into the story at the end and will make everyone happy. And so it just flowed out of me, the ending, and which is good because I hadn't done the beat sheet for that yet. Now I do need to do those beats because I just haven't had time. It's the weekend, so I should be able to get that done. I got all my schoolwork out of the way for today. And yeah, so that's where I am. Thank you for joining me in this video, and I will see you in the next wrap-up.